hanger hanging up. Here's my contribution to what has just happened. You guys don't feel it so much here as you do in, say, for instance, Texas, where laws are even getting worse as well. The first 15, they're doing everything they can to make any abortions illegal. So, the past year I have written extensively, and a different publisher, not me, published a book of mine, and we have called it Testament, dun dun dun, sure on me guys. It goes in 4 parts. The first part, which is the largest book, the first half of the book, is all post-Roe v. Wade women's rights poetry. I'm explaining a lot. The second half is about life and death issues, the death of poets, and the pain that we go through, that kind of thing. Part 3 is poetry reflected of the first book of the Old Testament, Genesis poetry. And part 4 is 3 poems from the last book of the New Testament. It is Revelations poems. Really short Revelations poems. And somehow a lot of them, sometimes they tie back into the idea of women's rights and gaining your rights and post-Roe v. Wade stuff. So they all kind of somehow tie. And there are a couple poems in between to tie things together. I've got a stack of books, but it's really raining out. So I'd be happy to get them out if anyone is interested in them. But in the meantime, I'm going to read to you a selection of those and try to get it on the screen. So I'll be able to see it for you guys. And yay, the elf rain! There's a sound I miss. I honestly do. I really do. And because we're all old school, I had to put on my Flavor Flav necklace and everything, and the books. It's a big book reading. So here's some poems from the book. This first one is titled, Unless It's About Suppressing Life. Before the overturning of Roe v. Wade, a number of the United States in America set trigger laws that would instantly restrict a woman's right to an abortion. Trigger laws. That sounds just a little Second Amendment-y, doesn't it? Or would that be Second Amendment-ish? You get the point, the right to bear arms. This is woven into the U.S. Constitution, originally under the premise of protecting ourselves from a government gone wrong, now revered for hunt, sports, protection. These trigger laws are about killing from the stroke of a pen instead of a weapon. Because no, these trigger laws are not about stopping the killing of something yet to live. They're about killing the rights of women. Plain and simple. Now these trigger laws are proof that the Second Amendment is alive and well, no matter which side of the political side you claim allegiance. Americans want that Second Amendment so much that they want to be ready to kill at the drop of a hat, then use trigger laws to remove rights from half of their people, too. Don't think these people care for embryos when they don't care for foster kids. Kids already suffering, already alive. That's not the issue. It's not about life at all, unless it's about suppressing life, either from the stroke of a pen through a religious edict, or the pulling of your precious trigger.
We support the last 5 words.
This next one is titled Just Checking My Religions. After the overturning of Roe v. Wade, I believe over half of these United States had trigger laws that would instantly restrict abortion or make it illegal. These Christian conservatives think that they're helping an unborn child when their own Bible doesn't agree with them, and they only restrict women instead. But Christians, if you're so gung-ho on opposing your religion as law, tell me why a fetus in the U.S. government doesn't get a social security number, or why no priest can bless a stillborn or a miscarriage because it was never considered alive. What does that say about protecting a non-living thing over an adult female? Speaking of religion as law, which I think is something the United States wants to shy away from, what about the Jewish people who don't believe life begins at conception?
Well, they ain't Christian.
Or that a fetus is a full person preserving equal rights of a human being. And Jewish law gives a fetus a full status of a human at birth. And the Talmud even indicates that until 40 days of gestation, a fetus is mere water. Ancient rabbis considered a fetus a part of the mother, and it was fully dependent on the mother, and she had full rights to do whatever she wanted with her body. So if the new conservative Christians impose these restrictions, They constitutionally break the First Amendment and deny freedom of religion for some. I don't think you conservative Christians are still all holding a grudge on this killing Jesus thing, but trying to make your religion law is actually illegal and in the Constitution. So, really, at this point, what laws do you hope to break to your unfounded religious tenets or law restricting all womankind? Yeah. Because voting happened in this past year as well, we've got some voting stuff. This one is called Vote Changing, the System's a Solution. It has been a year since siblings told me they would never visit the state, which I'm afraid I now claim residence, since they passed the worst anti-abortion laws. I keep stressing this isn't my home. I still vehemently say this isn't my choice, but I still live here, complaining, accomplishing nothing. The saddest part about these laws, the saddest part is that so many women have to fight this uphill battle against a new and intrusive state. That's truly the saddest part. But the saddest part about these laws is that in Texas, at the 1-year anniversary of SB 8, limiting abortion rights, well over half of Texans actually strongly support abortion rights. After the long, arduous year, I see photos of Texas women in my now town marching, depicting signs of the Texas flag stating, "Don't mess with Texas women." Well, that's a noble cause, but we've already been messed with. So, then what? My isolation escalates because surveys and polls don't pass laws or overturn them. Like Queen Elizabeth II, who just passed away. I have never told people how to vote, though that's all that any news articles reports can talk about now. Telling people to change their mind this one time and vote for a Democrat that gives women rights. I won't tell you what to do. I never will, because I cannot tell you that the platform of one political party is worth changing your vote over a single issue. Even if the issue is life and death for women versus life and death for folks themselves, which can't fathom life as we know it. You'd think it was a simple decision. You'd think it was cut and dry, as it should be. But when the cards are so stacked against women's rights, think again. It makes me wonder if voting for change is literally the only thing we can do. Do the signs and protests matter? Does anyone listen when our complaints and cries seem to fall on deaf ears? When backwards irrationality prevails, how does being the loudest voice on the street make an ounce of difference? If a person protests in the middle of a forest of people, does it make a sound to any lawmakers who choose to close their ears to reason? Or how will they ever listen to the truth? Well, this one I guess is more about me. I'm not really gothy, but well, yes I am. This one's called "Queuing as Defeatists, but Fighting for Freedom." Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, something that's been a part of my whole life, I've been looking for change, checking the news, hoping. So after searching the news, I see that France and Israel have chosen to strengthen their abortion rights for women after the U.S.'s overturning of Roe v. Wade. And I know I love Brie Capri sandwiches sitting at a Paris cafe looking out on the street at the passers-by. But I know how quickly they were conquered by Nazis in World War II. So after all these years, it's good to see France being so quick to support women's rights. Merci beaucoup. But no, I'm no French girl, and no, I'm no Gal Gadot Israeli overcoming against all, because even though each and every one of us is a Wonder Woman, I still feel like the ever-repressed goth girl shunted from what's right. This goth girl may seem a defeatist at heart, for after confronting evils and oppression, we can only feign optimism for the minions. But when something so cruel is done, us goth girls gotta fight with an unbridled passion and an unbridled survival instinct to make sure the world knows that these select southern United States shouldn't have the right to steal liberty and freedom. We must now find any way to fight, somehow, anyhow, whichever way how, to regain our once and human rights. Well, all right, fine. People were like, what do I read next? I guess I'll go with this one. This one's called Use Any Angle. Biblically, we talk about going to heaven and then working for peace to make heaven on earth. When wanting peace, it starts with not only loving all, but treating everyone as equal. Still, women continue as the religious right takes away women's rights. It makes me wonder, if women are forced to carry a fetus to term to create a new life, would these stodgy old white men care for it, as well as all the orphan and foster kids that no one will claim, care for, or love? Because if these conservative Christians truly believe in these words of their deity, then they should help the poor, feed and clothe the ones with none, house the homeless, instead of your church pocketing billions while not paying taxes and turning your focus to claiming to care for an embryo. But it's not about caring for the unborn. We all know that. It's about restricting women's rights. We've been under your thumb for millennia, and as we prove we can all do your jobs, all for less pay, thank you, as well as juggle your female-defined chores, well, you have to come up with a new angle to take different rights away from us. Because you've had this stranglehold on womankind for so long, you don't want to lose your quote-unquote perceived power. Try any excuse. Use any angle. Do anything you can so that you can still feel like you're in control. But whatever tactics you use will circumvent the error in your ways. It's the only way history moves forward. Some people from the way past would remember that I was an acquaintance rate workshop facilitator. That's the sound I love. Youth work hard. I was an acquaintance rate workshop facilitator for years, so I have a lot of women's issue stuff, and I talk about that as well. So I've got a short one here that actually relates to that somehow. This one, I have to give you some Texas stuff. This one's called Eliminate All Rapists. After Texas's abortion law was made last year, made no excuses for rape, Republican Governor Greg Abbott assured his people by saying, quote, Texas will eliminate all rapists from the streets. I'm sorry, Mr. Abbott, but what a narrow view. If you think that all rapists are walking the streets in search for their next random victim. People in clinics in your state will tell you that 8 out of 10 rapists are someone the woman knows. So whether or not you could keep the streets clean, the streets aren't the first place you should look, but to the men that these women once trusted. Eliminating all rapists is a wonderful idea, so saith this acquaintance rate workshop facilitator, but it's really a mystical, magical idea in the end when the mentality of many men has to change before you law enforcement types can begin to climb this already uphill battle, eons in the making. For critics say Greg Abbott's statements seem to be detached from reality when sexual assault hotlines in Houston are going just as strong post-Roe v. post-Texas rights removing and debilitating women law passing versus before Abbott passed this to hurt women. So, you can't will something terrible like this away with a single press release or a public statement, especially when the only thing Texas has done to stop rape is to try to remove the backlog of rape test kits. Thanks for being on Women's Side once again, Governor. We should know that if you take away our rights in one place, your behavior won't change to help us ever, anywhere. To newbies. Hi, newbies. Hi.
I don't think I've seen you in a big shoot.
No, this is my first
Hi, Lou. And you guys were here at the beginning.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love the poetry energy of it's raining, but we're all gonna.
We've got to make it happen. Well, I'm a Chicagoan.
And our worst
Yeah. And I'm in Chicago for I'm back in town for only this weekend, so I'm doing this feature now, and we've got to get together. And I'm reading select poems from part 1 of this book Testament, and they're all post-Roe v. Wade things. Just give you the heads up. I've got a couple. I don't know how many. I don't know. But this one is fun. This one, maybe 3, I'm guessing. This one's called Old Enough to Choose. Reading the headlines, I keep thinking, this cannot be true. But this many headlines in sync cannot be wrong. That A, Florida court rules teenager, quote, not mature enough to have an abortion. This 16-year-old parentless girl working to get her GED also explained that her boyfriend cannot support anyone. Her guardian is fine with what she wants to do, so she researched this, even sent handwritten requests for court approval, to which they said no, that she is not mature enough to have an abortion. Now apparently this parentless, unemployed 16-year-old is old enough to give up her future to birth and raise a child on her own with no money until she's more than twice her age right now. Of course, makes total sense. That's the political system for you, or what? Never mind. Usually the number 1 issue behind voting decisions in the country is the economy. Struggling economic figures and rising prices for food and gas, it hurts Democratic candidates. So Republicans didn't believe that abortion rights for women or climate change would be an issue. But voters came out in droves, especially Gen Z. Although they did voice their concerns about the economy, there was a much more basic moral issue on the ballot. These Southern Christian Republican men give us more reasons to vote for change once we see the effects of what the removing of these rights really means for anyone who is not an old, wealthy, white male. A man in a stuffy suit smoking a cigar might feel like he has enough sway to decide what is best for women or the financially challenged, but his choices always hit hardest on minorities. And oddly enough, in the political world, women become a minority too. Maybe they close their ears to our protests, thinking that they are on a morally higher ground, a stance that supports clumps of cells inside a woman, but ignores them once they're born, which, come to think of it, isn't very Christian. Rattling these metal bars that they locked us up behind wasn't enough. And the last time I checked, stripping away rights was precisely what the U.S. government was supposed to stop. Preserving our right was the key, and not taking a hatchet to any of our inalienable rights in the first place. Maybe voting is only a step until they realize their moral choices were actually more immoral, and they start to worry about lives that are actually living. How loud are we forced to roar to get your attention before you might listen to reason? Reevaluate your premises and start supporting the life, the living, breathing, intelligent, vibrant life that for far too long you've chosen to ignore.
Yeah.
This is a longer one that I had to put in. This is my second to last one. That's a longer one. And it's called X and Y and What's Seizing the Sexes. What is it that sets the sexes apart? Yes, I know. There are biological differences between men and women, and those who rely on the Bible will say that women were made from the rib of man. It's just cut and dry when adhering to the Christian religion that woman is an extension of man. But for women who don't believe the Bible's word on that, when women are rulers of past cultures, we know that if we didn't live under man's foot at our necks, we may be able to sing, anything you can do, I can do better. So really, I've been wondering, what sets the sexes apart? So maybe it's the science, since the sex of us human types, and all mammals really, is only decided on a male determining Y chromosome. Women have 2 X chromosomes that contain about 900 genes each that do all sorts of jobs. And for the men out there, they carry only one X chromosome and one Y chromosome, which contains fewer genes, like I'm talking only 55, and one of those genes kickstarts the male development in the embryo. But the rest of that Y chromosome is technically a lot of junk DNA, non-coded DNA, which in effect means that there's a lot of junk there that doesn't do anything. Wow, I didn't realize science could logically explain what many of us rationally might have already hypothesized. But I was researching this to find the root of our differences, and I learned that the Y chromosome may actually be starting to disappear, and that there are men out there now with two X chromosomes and no Y, still with male parts and male sex drive. Because I hear people identifying as one gender or another, and it makes me wonder, what is the real difference? Because we've all been led to believe that biology identifies us, and it may, but the more science I learn, the more I see how people identify. That could also play a role when science and society both define humanity. For now that I live in this post-gender defining world and forgetting to place she/her in parentheses after my name, I only think back to living in the Chicago streets where I've seen too much violence firsthand toward women, no matter how they define themselves by gender. And there's no comfort for how you define yourself when a woman still fears for her safety when walking down the street, holding each key from her key in between each knuckle for self-defense. For however society may define he, she, they, them, biology will still worm its way into the very base of not only ourselves, but also our protection and ultimately our rights. For how we identify will be damned when biology uses brute force to take what they want, identity be damned. For it doesn't matter how rich or how poor, how affluent or how downtrodden a female may be when it comes to rape or coercion, which leads to a pregnancy caused by a man that she/her/them/they all have to deal with entirely on their own. Well, they don't even get that choice anymore post the overturning of Roe v. Wade if they live in a Bible-Belt state, which very possibly is also a state that supported slavery. Living in a regressive state that chooses to take the right choice away from women after man caused the now fiasco women ultimately couldn't control. So now it's a matter of choice. Love be damned for women, and gender identity be damned when it's still about biology and men couldn't care less how you identify yourself. So let's face it, ladies, you've got the parts, but you don't have a choice. Yes, I agree with you. It's a nice warm feeling to be able to define who you are to the world without fear of consequences, but it's a brutally cold feeling when more basic biological choices are taken away from you first. For all, at this point in the game, I worry so desperately about what sets the sexes so apart, while some, no matter how they identify their gender, can still make choices that can destroy the rights of so many more. Whose rights are worth saving? Wait a minute. What am I saying? Rights are worth saving. No matter the gender, no matter how they identify themselves, rights are worth saving. No matter what sets the sexes apart.
Yeah.
And I'm going to close with one poem. I had told you that there are sections about it, but there will be bonus poems or intro poems separating the sections. This is actually the first poem in the book that introduces the whole thing. And if people remember that I did periodic table poems, this is a sciencey poem too, because that's how I roll. This is the last poem for you guys. Thank you, you guys. And it's called Information Carries Weight. Dateline Physics. A new experiment could define a fifth state of matter in the universe, alongside solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. If this is true, it could upend what we think of as what could carry weight. Physicist Dr. Melvin Vobson has already published research suggesting that information has mass and that all elementary particles store information. The DNA for humans does this too. But if this is true, everything stores information, and information carries weight. If you think it's a joke, then take this with a 50-pound block of salt. Hard drives with information on them weigh more than empty hard drives. If information were the fifth state of matter, could change physics as we know it, expanding our understanding of the universe, all while in harmony with the laws of physics. Quote, it doesn't contradict quantum mechanics, electrodynamics, thermodynamics, or classical mechanics. It actually complements physics, said Dr. Hobson. Not unlike a poem. And Dr. Hobson even postulates that if information is the fifth state of matter, it may even explain that dark matter we keep guessing about but cannot see. Latest scientific papers outline how to put these theories to the test. To detect and measure the information in elementary particles by annihilating them. Energy would turn into gamma photons. Particles containing information would convert into low-energy infrared photons. So, these infrared photons would emerge after erasing information. If this is true, maybe information is a fundamental building block of our universe. So maybe it's true that all the information we ever knew, from the genocide of millions to destroying the dictators, or building bridges, or traversing skyscrapers, all that with learning the fluidity of dance, listening to music, studying arts, reading and writing poetry. Maybe it all melds so perfectly with the histories taught to us in schools, or the periodic table we memorized in class and thought we'd never have a need for. Maybe all that physics is stuck in the backs of our brains to make us stronger, or to give us the weight we need when facing new challenges of costing our rights. And when people try to push us backward, maybe this information gives us the tools to fight ignorance until we can move forward again. We never thought we'd need all that information, but we didn't realize information carries weight. And that information may be the most fundamental force of all. That one poem was the first poem that was in this book that introduces the concept of how the more information you get on things, the more you learn, and we can grow and move forward and solve all of our problems if we all join together. So
Absolutely.
thank
I
you.
believe it's true.
Thank
I
you.
believe it's true.
I escaped technical express switching schools. Not only have to take chemistry, I was
but look at all that info you learned there. All that info you've gotten is given.